Question number 3. If we look at it from a broad perspective, what are viruses? And do they exist in other dimensions? What is a virus? A virus, in my opinion, is one of the most perfect natural elements ever created because they are the guardians of evolution. They are small, living organisms, data, which modify and better themselves year after year in order to reproduce and expand. Let's imagine that these microorganisms are actual entities which work in swarms and start to use the resources of the environment that surrounds them in order to expand and create a cultivation, a culture of viruses, so that they can expand and transcend through reproduction by moving from one place to another and improving themselves through different organisms that invade. If you think about it, I've basically just described humanity. A virus is not just a little bug, an organism which is inside our body. A virus is every being, every biological or energetic organism which reproduces itself with the objective of occupying the most territory and absorbing as much information as possible, as well as resources from the environment in which it is developing. And if that environment suffers, dies, then it expands, adapting itself to the new organism it inhabits. We do the same with territories, with ecosystems. That's why ants can also be a parasite for other ecosystems. A virus is a being that has the ability to replicate itself and better itself constantly. But it also has a key point. Thanks to that, natural selection is generated so that evolution can take place. Why? Imagine we have 10 people, and there's a virus which kills all 10 people, and there are 3 people left. This means that these 3 people have the capability in their organisms to cope with that virus, so it can't affect them. And what does that mean? That these 3 are going to reproduce, and when they reproduce, they are going to generate more. So when the same virus comes, only one of them will die. And why? Because they are improving the species. So the virus regenerates itself and says, I'm going to kill the others. And ultimately, these reproduce so the same virus cannot kill them anymore. What does this entail? In evolution, which is an aspect without moral, what a virus does is act as a regulating agent. That's why it's important to take into account how we prepare ourselves, whether we're strong, whether we're ready physically, and in good form emotionally. We can be working on ourselves constantly in order to be the specimens that can get over a virus, an illness, or a conflict. So, what viruses do is improve the system. If I'm not useful for the system, the virus can hurt me faster. That's why it's important to understand that viruses have a fundamental role in the evolution of our planet, as well as all living organisms. We basically exist as humans thanks to the viruses, which have made us select the best individuals who have been able to survive those viruses. And in this way, Natural selection has allowed us to survive and become stronger in the face of many organisms that are around, organisms which we see and touch all the time. These are on our hands, like germs, but they don't affect us anymore because we have evolved, thanks to how they have pushed us to evolve, basically. And viruses do exist in other dimensions. There are viruses in all dimensions. All dimensions are in constant evolution, self-evaluation, and constant self-practice. So, for example, for other planets that are in the fourth dimension, we in the third dimension are viruses. Our emotions are viruses for certain entities in the fourth dimension. And those beings in the fourth dimension are also viruses for beings in the fifth or other fourth dimensional beings. There are many viruses, entities, and many are on different planes. And what they do is help improve the system. So we don't have to fight the viruses. We only need to better ourselves. And this is an allegory of life in general. We don't have to fight our enemies in order to be able to ascend to other planes of consciousness. We only need to be better than our enemies. That's simply it. We need to simply become someone transcendental, be above conflicts, be above others' needs. When I manage to better myself, fighting, illness, and conflicts come to an end. That's why, biologically, a virus is an allegory for the spiritual life, as we are constantly told, don't fight against me. The only thing you need to do is better yourself so I don't have an impact on you. And this also has to do with interpersonal relationships, in which if I improve myself, what someone else tells me won't affect me. And also related to this, there are emotional viruses, fourth dimensional viruses which enter our bodies and are entities which feed on our needs. There are many entities and viruses. Even in the seventh or eighth dimension, there are information viruses which distort data. However, when distorting data, new perspectives of data are generated. At the same time, for the eighth dimension, which is a network, a virus which splits, the same way a virus splits the DNA and places that DNA inside of us in order to reproduce, which is what a virus does. In the eighth dimension, which is the network of information, there are also viruses that go cut. They cut information. They add their own distortion, and that information becomes distorted. That distortion, which is the same in the DNA as in cosmic planetary network or universal cosmic network, is a method which improves the network because it allows for more perspectives of the same reality. So, there are viruses everywhere, and they are the key to our evolution, to bettering ourselves.
Mahasaham, Mahasaham.